I've been making content on the internet.com for this YouTube channel for over 5 years now consistently, and I've been making my living off of this for about 4 or maybe 3 of those 5 years. And one of the things that's incredibly rare, exceedingly rare, is for the subject of the video that you're talking about to get into contact with the creator. Usually this is a passive relationship. I'm providing my commentary, my opinions, my analysis on whatever that subject matter may be, and the person goes about their life, or the subject of the video is completely unaware, or if they are aware, they don't make it known that they are aware of the content that's currently being made about them. This is one of the reasons why I was so fascinated by this Charlie Kirk episode, where him and Jack Posobiec, actually had Kyle Rittenhouse on, because Kyle has been talked about by many creators, both left, right, and center. His case has been national news, and we rarely get to see instances of him reacting to the coverage, good or bad, that has been about his case. And the reason we're making this video, the reason we're talking about it, you know it for sure by the title and probably the absurd thumbnail that I'm making for this video, is because Kyle has seen some of the bad coverage from Kasparian, and he decides to totally torch this lacking journalist. But before we get into that, we gotta talk about Virtual Shield, Virtual Transition. Did you know that the top 5 tech companies spend millions of dollars lobbying at the state, local, and federal level against your online privacy? I'm talking about the big ones, companies like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google, all interested and bragging about defeating bills at the state and federal level to protect you. Well, here on HAW, we do not wait for government protection. We go out and protect ourselves, and what I use to protect myself is Virtual Shield. They're no-log VPN, they're incredibly fast and easy to utilize, and on top of that, if you sign up using my custom URL, virtualshield.com/justice, you will get a 30-day free trial plus 50% off your subscription price for the rest of your lives. It is an ongoing deal in perpetuity. Shield yourself. Don't wait on the government. virtualshield.com/justice. Now, there are 2 things that I need to take note of right away before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video. We'll call this the green bean section of what's on our plate today to talk about. And the first is that Kyle Rittenhouse has a stress dog.
So Milo is my dog. I got him in January to help with everything that's going on, somebody I can help train. Man's best friend.
The reason he has a stress dog is because we all forget, based on the images that we project onto this kid, that this was a kid that went through a lot. This whole thing where he was in a position where he needed to defend himself was not something that he asked for. It's not something that he's embracing for fame and fortune, contrary to the images being portrayed of him in the mainstream and the online lefty media. In fact, I found this clip of him from when he was initially at the Antioch Police Department before he was eventually arrested by those police, and I didn't see it before. I didn't see it circulating widely across the internet.com, so I want to put it out there first and foremost for those people who believe that Kyle was somehow faking his emotional response while he was on the stand, because I think it's very telling how he reacts under surveillance camera without realizing that he's actually in an interrogation room. Well, he knows he's in an interrogation room, hopefully, but without realizing that he's under surveillance with the camera up in the corner of the room.
Mom, look at me. Look at me. It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna be okay. Mom, can you breathe? I don't want you to have a heart attack. I need you.
I think if you compare that initial reaction that night to his reaction on the stand, recounting the events, reliving the events, it's quite telling that those reactions are in fact genuine. And I want people to understand that much in the same way that Rosenbaum, Huber, and Grosskreutz put Kyle in a position where he had to defend himself, this media campaign that he may or may not be on, it's only been a couple of interviews, doesn't appear to me to be something that Kyle is just willfully seeking out. They've been smearing him in the media constantly for well over a year, and this is him defending himself much in the same way that he was forced to defend himself from Rosenbaum, from Huber, and from Gage Grosskreutz. This is all the pressure being put on him, and the way that he's responding to this is with grace and compassion for the people that smear him that I don't think is warranted at all, which we're going to get into. But I also want to talk about how Jack Posobiec obviously didn't realize that this was Casual Fridays. Now, you guys know, me and Jack, we go back, we're good friends, and by good friends, I mean, he's a really good guy, and he was one of the very few people with a giant platform that was pushing out the Julius Jones stuff that was more mainstream. You know, he's working with TPUSA right now, so he's in that more mainstream category, but he's looking sharp. I gotta acknowledge it. I gotta point out that Charlie Kirk's wearing a t-shirt. It's called The Charlie Kirk Show, but it looks like Kirk is more of a guest and Jack is here for business. All business, all the time. Respect to Jack. Go follow him on Twitter. I don't know where I'm going with this. Honestly, it's not important. The important thing is the important thing. The important thing is, I'm gonna cut out me saying important. The important thing is that they're talking about the bad media coverage. And then all of a sudden in the middle of this podcast that I was listening to, because Jack's my friend and I'm very interested, this happened.
Kyle, at what point did you realize that this was more than just about your future? Or maybe that was always your focus and you didn't care about the rest? And like, oh, I'm now kind of a figurehead for multiple different movements, over prosecution, self-defense. When did that kind of set in?
Well, when I first realized it was probably in December of 2020 when I realized, okay, this is getting pretty big. All these media personalities are talking about it, and all the people who don't agree with me or agree with the right to self-defense are making up these things such as Anna Kasparian and the Young Turks.
Yup, it is in fact true. Kyle Rittenhouse brought up Anna Kasparian. And one of the things that I learned from Kyle, because he was actually doing a Twitter space, which is kind of like Clubhouse, except on Twitter, where I actually got a chance to speak to him, is that Kyle watched some of the videos on this channel made about him, specifically ones involving the Young Turks, which we'll get into a little bit later based on his responses to Anna Kasparian and her apparent retraction. But he brought her up. He's smiling when he brings her up. Anna was not smiling when she had to retract all the nonsense about Kyle Rittenhouse that she did retract while spewing out more nonsense. But they're going to roll the clip. But I also want to say Charlie Kirk is giving Anna a little bit too much praise right here in the beginning.
Excuse me.
I have that clip.
Really? Oh.
So can I play it?
Yeah, sure.
So Anna Kasparian, now that's an Armenian name. So what she's doing on the Young Turks, I have no idea. Now, you might not know the Turkish-Armenian history.
The Young Turks were the ones who killed the Armenians.
Genocide, but we're not going to get into that. Anyway, I'm not a fan of hers. But I will say, though, she came out and I don't know if you saw what she did.
She admitted she was wrong.
We have that clip. So Anna Kasparian.
And I give her all the credit in the world for
cut
that.
7. You know the name's Armenian if it ever ends in IAN, which means son of.
They call it a lucid moment.
Yes. So then she comes out of nowhere and she says, I was wrong.
So before we get into the clip, I just want to point out and make it very clear, and you could tell by the clip pulled up by Charlie Kirk, that they're using the clip shown on Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson did a segment where he talked about some people retracting and changing their minds and changing their positions after they heard new information about the trial. And it wasn't really new information, it was new information 15 minutes after the event, because all these videos were uploaded on the internet 15 minutes after the event. But it was new to them because a lot of people were just going based off the narrative that they heard on Twitter or from the mainstream media, which we've covered multiple different times on this channel. I think the absolute worst instance of this, being the least accurate thing I saw related to this, was in the post Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, or when we were waiting on the verdict from the jury. I don't remember exactly when. And there were people protesting Kyle Rittenhouse, and they were chanting 7 shots in the back, as if they were under the impression that Kyle Rittenhouse was the person who shot Jacob Blake, which I found really odd and really insane. But based on the way the media had been covering this, I wasn't surprised.
If Kenosha don't get it, if Kenosha don't get it, if Kenosha don't get it, 7 shots in the back. 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 7 shots in the back.
Now, with that being said, I'm sure you feel like you've waited too long. I'm sure you feel like I've stalled too much. We're going to roll into the clip so you can hear Anna retract and then see Kyle's reaction to that retraction.
So I want to play cut 7, Anna Kasparian, who lied about you, but then had the courage to clarify the record on air. Play cut 7.
So look, these details matter because if you're going to make an argument that you acted in self-defense, there needs to be some proof that there was an imminent threat. Now, what really mattered to me was how all of this unfolded. What was the thing that sparked it? What started all of it? And initially, I was under the assumption that Rittenhouse was the person who was chasing after Joseph Rosenbaum, that's how it had started. But I was wrong about that. Okay, so I want to correct the record. I was, in fact, wrong about that.
She was wrong about it.
She's wrong about a lot of things. She's wrong about a lot of things.
Oh, so you said that it was a white guy. What happened?
She's wrong about a lot of things.
That is a very smart, beyond his years 18-year-old man. The Young Turks depends on dumb kids around Kyle's age in order to fuel their views so that they can grow their empire of misinformation on the internet. But Kyle said it right there so succinctly, distilled something that has been contained in video after video on this channel so accurately that we just gotta play it one more time.
She's wrong about a lot of things.
Yes, Anna is wrong about a lot of things, and it's absolutely great to hear it from one of the subjects of her videos, somebody that she's been lying about for well over a year, somebody that she continues to lie about. Her and Jank are currently making up lies about Kyle Rittenhouse and about his case to this very day. For Kyle to just laugh, chuckle it off, and dismiss Anna as the irrelevant liar who's not accurate in any of her reporting that she actually is. Now, we talked about, and I'm not going to go into it, you can watch my whole video on this semi-retraction from Anna Kasparian, how she was more inaccurate in this video than she had in other videos where she was willfully getting the facts wrong related to the case. But I think it's great for Charlie Kirk to point out that she was lying about him for a year, and for Kyle to be so gracious and saying, hey, look, she was wrong about a lot of things, obviously. I mean, this is a clown operation news show. I'm adding that extra part. Carl didn't say that, but just relax. But he's happy that she just retracted this part because, as Kyle pointed out, and I'm paraphrasing what he said in the Twitter space, if there's a recording out there sometime in the future, then you could listen. But I only got to talk to him for like a minute because obviously very popular subject and all that. He was just happy that somebody took the time and effort to correct something, because in the low bar for truth in media, Anna's piss poor retraction buried in the middle of a video where she gets more things factually inaccurate than she's actually retracting is among the best in terms of media coverage that this kid has gotten. And that's actually a shame for our nation, if we're being perfectly honest. Now, I do want to point out that the Young Turks did go over Kyle Rittenhouse's Tucker Carlson interview. Obviously, they're not responding to this Kirk one. Maybe they'll respond to it at some point in the future. But if you want to see cognitive dissonance at its peak, they actually play in that video a portion of Kyle's interview from Tucker Carlson where they're laughing at idiots who say cross state lines all the time. And Anna, when they cut back, doesn't even appear to acknowledge that they were making fun of people just like her.
It's actually quite hysterical how nobody can go back and look at the facts of the case. He crossed state lines. False. He's a white supremacist. False. None of that is true. And the lies that they can just get away with spreading is just sickening, and it's a disgrace to this country.
Now look, I'm not going to review this whole Young Turks video. I'm not really interested in this entire video. They lie about Kyle multiple different times, but honestly, we have bigger fish to fry because the Young Turks are actually comparing Kyle to that person in Michigan involved in that school, which we're not going to get into right now, saying that the right wing is going to embrace that other kid who's obviously a criminal because he's the same as Kyle Rittenhouse, who they also embrace. So we're going to do a whole video on that. We're going to talk about multiple different layers of hypocrisy in the Young Turks coverage of that whole Michigan scenario. But For Anna to go through this whole video, which is about 18 minutes long, and not address that Tucker and Kyle are laughing at people just like Anna when she said cross state lines this many times, and in fact, more times than are present in my compilation that I play in every video and I'm about to play for you, is absolutely absurd.
He crossed state lines. False.
Who crossed state lines. He drove from Illinois to Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now again, he drove from Illinois to Wisconsin. It's not like he was in his front yard and he was approached by a group of individuals who posed an imminent threat to his life. He drove across state lines in a state that he doesn't even live in, and then he crossed state lines with it. He crossed state lines, meaning he traveled across state lines. He traveled there from out of state, who again traveled across state lines.
She's wrong about a lot of things.
Things like this, I can't ignore. Things like this bother me to no end. You can't play that clip about the state lines crossing, know how many times you said it, despite the fact that it never made any sense at all, and not respond to that portion and have any level of integrity in my mind. And this is also one of the reasons why I appreciate Kyle Rittenhouse, the person, and how he's actually come out in the media post the verdict and all that, because Kyle's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to go to CPAC a million times and be this conservative figurehead. He just wants to live his normal life, and one of the ways that you could tell he's not really that big of a political actor is he's destroying the gun. By the way, I don't know if you know that. We're not going to have a shady Zimmerman situation, whatever you think about that case, where he ended up selling the gun involved in the instance to other people. So I think that is unbelievably honorable, because it's just gross to sell the gun as if it's a trophy. It was a tool used in self-defense, and just because somebody wants to buy something doesn't necessarily mean you should sell it like it's a collectible. So I think that is unbelievably wise of him. And B, he doesn't seem like he's interested in going to these conservative events. There's this meme out there that Kyle has been sentenced to 45 years of CPAC appearances, but when he was asked in that Twitter space if he was going to do these political conventions, because obviously he is being asked to do them, he said he's not really interested in politics. He's kind of bored about the politics. And the thing is, I believe it. I believe that this is just something that has been hoisted upon him, not something that he embraced, because he was a 17-year-old kid. 17-year-old kids are often not into politics, and if they are, they're typically unbearable. And the more people see of Kyle Rittenhouse, in his own words, unbearable is just not something that comes to mind. This is a down-to-earth kid who's very calm, and in fact, works to be calmer to help other people around him remain calm, because his family has seen a lot of negative publicity and they're really worried about his reputation. They were worried about his reputation from the jump, worried about his life, obviously, because he was facing life in prison from the jump, but he maintained his cool because, as he said in that Tucker Carlson interview, if he panics, then the people who are worried about him are going to panic even more. So I really appreciate the fact that Kyle graciously is kind of letting the Anna Kasparian thing go, but we're not going to do that over here on this channel because they're still lying about him, and I think that's absurd and insane and absolutely ridiculous and disgusting. And while Kyle might have better cases against other outlets, the Young Turks should learn a lesson for not only the lies that they're telling about the Rittenhouse case, but the way that they're ginning up hysteria related to this case and seem to be baiting people into committing violence based on their false narratives. So that's what I'm worried about overall, but I just wanted to bring that moment to you where Kyle just says straight up, Anna's wrong about a lot of things, because it made me chuckle and I knew it would make you guys laugh. And I expanded into this really long video, and I hope you guys don't think it was too long for the topic at hand. Now, with all that being said, all the YouTube guidelines say that comments are a big thing. So I'm going to look in the camera at this point like I'm Philip DeFranco and talk about how this show isn't just a show, it's a conversation. And I need you to write down all the comments in the comments below so that way I can read all of them and continue this conversation. Sorry, I can't do this. It's a show. It's not a conversation. If you want to leave comments, I do scroll through them. It would be interesting to see some of your thoughts, but really, I'm never going to say that this show is a conversation. It's never going to happen. Even in the premiere, when I'm typing in the premiere and talking to some of you people, that is not a conversation. It's a show. It's a show. It's a show 100%. Don't let any YouTuber who tells you otherwise get into your brain and convince you that that is the case. As usual, if you like the video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You could support me via the support links down in the description box. This has been me talking about the Rittenhouse Rittenhouse case, make sure you contribute to the conversation in the comments below. Till next time.